So I think the multicultural conversation is interesting because it's really twofold, right? On one hand, you have the conversation of big brands, multi-billion-dollar brands understanding multicultural. And on the other hand, you have this new age of, the world changing so fast that even the term multicultural is different now than it was 3 years ago. It's like, how do you understand something that's always evolving now? And it's evolving quicker than it ever has. Back in the day, multicultural was, African-American kids on the south side of Chicago. But now, multicultural means something completely different. So I think from a brand perspective, a big company such as Nike or, Beats even, I don't think a big company will ever understand multicultural. I think the best situation is for a company to understand that they need to understand it. Because once they get to that place, they can bring in the aid of labs or the people who are really in it and really authentic to it to help them understand it. You can't sit, in a boardroom and be a senior vice president of a $30 billion company and think you understand multicultural. You don't. You're too far away from it, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just the reality. But what you can do is understand the fact that you need to understand it, because that puts you in a position to bring people around you that can bring you that authenticity. So when I saw that article in Complex about the 50 most influential people in the sneaker industry, and not one of them was a person of color, that really made me, go back to the conversation that we always have around owning this culture, right? From a multicultural or from an urban standpoint, we have to own what's ours. And the one asset that we have is sport, music, and fashion. You think about the highest level of innovators, of culture pushers on the sports side, people of color. You look at, the same thing from a music or entertainment side, people of color. You look at it fashion, from the stuff Virgil's doing to Don C to everybody on the fashion side, even the stuff Dapper Dan's doing, right? So, they go back to Dapper Dan, who's been doing this stuff for 30 years or 40 years now. People of color, right? So the people who are pushing the culture are people of color, yet the people that are controlling the business aspects of the culture are not. And I think that really kind of goes back to us really, taking a stand and owning that piece that's ours, which is this culture. We drive it, we push it, so we should be on that other side. But it's really up to us to hold these billion-dollar companies accountable for that. And that goes back to culture vultures, right? It goes back to that. I don't want to keep saying that, but that's really what it is, man. That's at the end of the day. So I think that the toughest lesson I've learned in my journey is really understanding the business side of this culture, right? So you can be authentic in the streets. You can be that dude, that people talk about. And you can know everything that's going on from a sports perspective, from a music perspective, from a fashion perspective. But if you don't understand the business, and if you're not as deeply entrenched on the business side, then your value is limited, right? So we always talk about adding value in every conversation you have, every position you have, from an employment perspective, but even your position within the culture, always adding value to that. If you don't understand the business side of it, your value is limited, because everybody's going to be that new fresh kid that's wearing the so-and-sos or that's rocking the belt different or wearing the scarf different or whatever. That's cool. But if you don't understand that business side of it, there's always going to be a new kid that's going to do that. You have to add value on both of those sides to continue a journey, authentically, and, to continue a rise inside the industry.